Hello and welcome to the Irish Pagan School YouTube channel. So I, like many of you, have watched the new film as we record this at the end of 2021, Don't Look Up. And we've watched it in horror. We've been able to process that it's satire, but like me, you may have had the reaction of this is just too real, okay? And I'm not going to do a critical review of the film. I thought it was very good. I did enjoy it. I kind of loved it and hated it in equal measure because, again, it's got that kind of Black Mirror vibe of just being a little bit too close to reality. But maybe it'll do its job. And that was what I actually wanted to talk today about, the idea of satire having a job and a role in society, because that was traditionally in Gaelic culture, that was the role of the bards, the files, people who, even the druids probably going back, people who stood within the hierarchical social structure, but also kind of outside of it. And within those kind of rules and roles of kingship and leadership and, monarchy and rulership of those tribal communities, there were people who stood aside from that and watched it. And these were effectively the satirists. Their names and titles changed through hundreds and even thousands of years, but they were the satirists. They were the ones who looked at what was happening within society, within culture, and if it needed taking apart, they took it apart. But they did it through entertainment. They did it through poetry. They did it through, there was a magical element to it, definitely. But I have said for a very, very long time, you can quote me, please reference me, that media is the new religion. That in our modern times, that is what we are dealing with. And that is what we are looking at, is our media has replaced the power within our societies that religion used to hold. And within these massive cultural shifts that we've been having, media has the power to make these changes, to force a light into these dark corners. And satire in particularly is doing this and can do this and should do this. So within Ireland, we have examples of this. We've seen it through generations now at this point. For example, Scrap Saturday, Dermot Morgan, Father Ted absolutely took down the power of the Catholic Church in Ireland. And we don't have to go into all that. There's a lot of context that you may or may not have or be missing or anything like that. We do have a class at the Irish Pagan School called A Timeline of Irish History. If you would like to get some context here as you're dealing with Irish paganism, Irish spirituality, Irish culture. There are some fantastic classes at the Irish Pagan School by Dr. Gillian Kenny and by Shane Broderick, which look at Gaelic society in Ireland, the rise and fall of it, the roles and functions, the roles of kingship. There's a lot of material there that you can go and actually learn the truth and the reality of how Irish society has functioned. But apart from that, when we look at our cultural impact, Dermot Morgan and the team, the Father Ted team, it started with Scrap Saturday. It probably started earlier than that with Phoenix magazine, if we want to go back to the 70s, the 80s, whatever it was. But the satire that was being brought, which was all political satire at the time, then translated itself then into the media, the mass media, the cultural entertainment of our nation through Scrap Saturday on the radio. And then from there was born, I suppose, the cultural phenomenon of Father Ted. And Father Ted is hilarious and was hilarious at the time. No Irish company or TV channel would make it. It had to be taken on by Channel 4. but it poked fun for the first time at the institution of the Catholic Church organization, the criminal cult, which has colonized our culture for so long. Now, I've no problem with Catholic religion at all. None of us do at the Irish Pagan School. In fact, one of our teachers still identifies as Catholic, and we're very much about the living tradition and the syncretic blend and all of that of our native spirituality on the island in whatever religious form that takes, right? But the actual criminal cult of the Catholic Church has been detrimental to our people, to our island. They have, well, yeah, look, we don't get into that, but it was bad. It was very bad for a very long time. And satire helped, I would say, maybe even was instrumental in taking that down. And then I've said it before, Blind Boy Boatclub. If you are not familiar with his podcast, you need to go immediately, if not sooner, and start listening to it. It is very much, Blind Boy is the modern satirist that we have needed in this age. And outside of Ireland, then, I think that Don't Look Up and that kind of media can and should be, and even Black Mirror and things like that. Black Mirror is not so much satire. It's not supposed to be entertainment or funny or anything like that. And I suppose satire doesn't have to be that either. But the role and function of this is to light up those dark corners that need looking at, that need examining, that need thinking about, that need critical awareness brought to them. And Don't Look Up very much does that. So that's what I was thinking when I was watching the film. Climate change in particular needs to be addressed on a global level, and it's not being addressed on a global level. And what has this got to do with Irish paganism? I hear you cry. And, you know, no doubt we'll see in the comments below. So let me just preempt your rant there. It's not going to stop anything. Who are we kidding? But Irish paganism is about politics. It always has been. Our spirituality has always been directly intertwined with politics. And if you're not sure how that's relevant, I really do urge you to go and take the Timeline of Irish History class at the Irish Pagan School. It literally goes through it step by step. And you will begin to have some kind of context and cultural awareness. And if you're interested in Irish paganism, you absolutely and categorically have to begin a journey of learning and understanding and seeking knowledge about Irish politics, Irish activism, Irish cultural and social context for your spiritual exploration, because none of this happens in a vacuum. And even outside of the island, there's so much historically that went into forming the identity of the Irish diaspora. There's so much that was going on here at the time when your ancestors, if that's you, your ancestors were being so directly and heavily influenced and manipulated in a lot of cases by what was going on back home in the motherland, as the language of the time went. That there is influences on you, on your longings, on your beliefs, on your understandings, on your knowledge that genuinely go back hundreds of years at least, and have gone into the creation of the identity of the Irish diaspora. And it's one of the reasons why we at the Irish Pagan School run up against such hostility and get accused of gatekeeping all the time, when we set very firm and healthy boundaries about what is and isn't okay, because for many generations, much of the Irish diaspora has been fed this particular line of bullshit in a lot of cases, or at least a very particular greenwashed view of things that does not serve you anymore. It really doesn't. So again, if any of that makes you angry, I would urge you to just sit with it, have a think, get a cup of tea or coffee, and just make sure that before you get all ranty in the comments or start slamming me in Facebook groups, you are actually examining your own stuff. And that can run really, really deep. So I would love for you to stick around for that journey, because we can absolutely provide a lot of support. It has been my life's work to authentically connect people to Ireland. That includes the history, that includes the politics, that includes the culture, that includes the society, that includes the language, that includes, of course, the mythology, the spirituality as well. So if any of that sounds good to you, then like, subscribe, hit the bell for notification, make sure that you stick around. And if it doesn't, then feel free to unsubscribe, because I won't be changing anytime soon. John, my co-founder, won't be changing anytime soon. This is what we're doing. This is what we're offering. And we hope that as we step into a new calendar year and, possibly more difficult times ahead, that we will continue to be a voice of reason, and we will continue to provide community, to a support to our people all over the world. And, from our home base here on the island, in the motherland, as it has been called. We don't call it that. So like, subscribe, do your thing, or don't. I will see you in the next video. Slán go fóill.